Okay, so what's actually happening here? Is the situation between China and Taiwan getting worse? I asked you guys that exact question on my Instagram, which of course you guys are all following, right? Prowsy_SR, where we talk about all kinds of interesting things over there. And I'll tell you the results of what you guys thought, what you guys said later on. But first, we have to talk about what is the situation, because it's rapidly changing. You may have heard in the news, this is one of those news headlines I failed to mention in the intro of this video, is that China has sent a bunch of military aircraft over into Taiwanese airspace. It's not quite Taiwanese airspace, it's the Taiwan Air Defense Zone, I don't really know, or ADIZ. It's essentially looked at as international waters, but Taiwan doesn't really like it when you fly there without really asking permission, especially when you're Chinese. They never really did this up until about March 2019. That number increased to 380 in 2020, and then increased again in 2021 to 600. That's absurd. We're not even finished the year yet, and they've done this 600 times in a single year. And just recently, China broke the record for the amount of aircraft sent into Taiwan, not into Taiwan, but into the southwest corner of the defense zone in a single day. Now, you might be asking, Prozzy, why are you making a video about this again? You sound like a broken record. And you're right, I did make the video about this already a few months ago, because China sent 28 planes, which was the most in one day a few months ago. But just over the weekend, they sent 150 airplanes over. And so you could understand why people are kind of freaking out, why people are concerned that this is a sign that China is gearing up for war. They are prepared to attack Taiwan any moment now because of the amount of aircraft that they're sending over. And I can understand that, and I'm sure you can understand that too, but there's a few reasons why that's happening. The first reason is that it is, or it was, China's birthday. It was their anniversary of the founding of the Communist Party of China. And every year they do this, they have a big dick swinging competition where they show off their military capabilities. And this year they decided to do that a little bit too close to Taiwan for comfort, really. And so it just so happens to be that type of year where China gets all their fancy toys and shows them off. The second reason is, this is China's reason, this is the reason they're giving. They actually haven't said too much, but in a statement they said that they are trying to go up against American aggression and coercion with Taiwan, because there has been a lot of military exercises between the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, a few other countries, where they have a few aircraft carriers and helicopter carriers close to Okinawa, and China didn't like that, and that's one of the reasons why people are speculating that China has sent over these aircrafts. And so that's one school of thought. People really think that the bombs are going to drop any second now. This is a clear sign that they're ready to attack. And then also on top of that, you have the defense minister of Taiwan claiming that China could invade Taiwan by 2025, because that will be just sort of the easiest time for them to do so with the minimal losses. That's not a nice thing to hear. The other school of thought is people who think that, you know what, they aren't going to attack. So here's why people might feel like China's not going to attack, that the situation's not getting worse. And that's just that the fact that China's been threatening Taiwan for years. And just because they're amping up their military presence doesn't really mean anything to a lot of people. Some people might call it complacency. I'm not too sure about that. I think that people here just are not too worried about China. They never have been, because it's sort of, I guess they feel like it's empty threats.
祖国完全统一的历史任务一定要实现，也一定能够实现。
You know, China keeps barking all day long but never bites. And so I think that people just are sort of fed up with it. I mean, I'm here right now with my coffee in my hand. I'm on my break at work, walking around. And if I wasn't making this video, I would not be thinking about China's threats at all, because like I said in previous videos, you simply can't live your life like that. Everyone has their own lives, their daily routines that they have to get through. And you'll go insane if you just constantly are thinking about China and you know, that bombs are gonna drop any second. People here just can't live their lives like that. And I guess they don't really want to be sensationalized, because it's just too distracting from all the things that are going on in daily life. And so I think that a lot of people that answered no on that Instagram post, you know, that don't think the situation is getting worse, I think that's sort of where they're coming from. It's just, they don't have time for China's threats. They don't believe them, essentially. So those are the sort of two main ideas, the two ways people think. And now let's see what you guys thought. That Instagram post I mentioned earlier, 27% of you said no. you don't think the situation's getting worse, and 73% of you said that you did think the situation is getting worse. Where do I stand on it? It's tough to tell. It's hard. I'm conflicted here. Okay, I've been sort of praised by even pro-CCP YouTubers like Guelo60 for being relatively fair with China because I did live there for quite a long time.
Prazi, I gotta give you a kudos, man. You're the only one that didn't turn this way.
I have a lot of friends there, people I love there, places I love there. There's a lot I love about China. This sort of, the idea, and lots of people say this, like even people who throw shade against China will say, you know, I have nothing against the people, it's the government I disagree with. And that's an easy thing to say, but it is sort of where I stand on it. You know, I have a hard time just hating on China so much because there are people there that I really like. Having said that, I can't really get behind China. You know, they are also responsible for sending military planes very close to my home here in Taiwan, threatening my safety. And I don't like that. I have a hard time supporting that. Now, that's a much more complicated statement than you might think. I have a hard time supporting it because unless you've lived under a rock or you don't know for some reason, a lot of things are produced and made in China. And so I sort of feel like, you know, it's hard not to be at least inadvertently or somewhat part of the issue, because it's not like you can just give up consuming Chinese products. I think that might be a little too difficult because they produce so much. The world is so heavily reliant on Chinese products and production value that it's really hard not to be a part of that problem, of the part of that economy, a part of the money that they make that goes into the military that's paying for those planes to come over here. I would, however, like to say this to Chinese people who are dreaming of national reunification. Completing the Chinese dream is what it's known as. Do you see yourselves as the defenders of China or the invaders of another place? Because it seems to me that you think you're the defender. You're bringing China together. You're finally regaining the lost territory, and it's part of this big national goal. But to be honest, the rest of the world doesn't see it that way. They see you as invaders of another country, another place, filled with people that have no interest in being a part of China, that don't even really see themselves as Chinese anymore. You know, that's one thing you hear a lot about in a lot of videos. People say that Taiwanese people believe that they are the real China. That's not really true anymore. Most people don't see themselves as Chinese. There's more of a new national identity here. People see themselves as Taiwanese. They don't have an interest in being a part of China. And so I would ask Chinese people, if you came here and you invaded, you regained national territory, and you brought in Taiwan as just another Chinese province, how much of home would you see here in Taiwan? Because I think that a lot of Chinese people would be surprised just how different this island is. I know that there are a lot of people who will argue, okay, but there's also a lot of provincial differences with the provinces in China, with different languages and different accents and food and the way people act. I mean, I get that, right? There's a big difference between the people that live in Dongbei versus the people who live in Guangdong or whatever, Sichuan, you name it. So maybe Taiwan could just be like that, but it's not. I think that people will be really surprised to see how far away from the national Chinese identity that Taiwanese people have come. And I think by forcing people to be a part of that country, you know, like with force, with military force, is just simply not a good idea. It's barely even an option, I would say. This has been big news, but even the big news thing is controversial because it was big news over here in Taiwan about all these incursions taking place into the Taiwanese airspace. However, when I looked at the news from my home country, like the Ottawa Citizen or the Ottawa Sun, or, you know, the news websites that I used to watch when I lived in Canada, it wasn't mentioned anywhere. The biggest news back home was Facebook going down for a few hours or whatever. I mean, I just can't believe that something like that, people losing their ability to use social media, supersedes the defense of a democratic nation that, you know, really needs support from the West. One more thing quickly before I let you go. I think that one reason why people think that China's not going to attack is that it's not like they're flying planes over the island or like, you know, I can see them. It's not like that. What they're doing is like, they're sending planes over like a little smidget of the air defense zone. So I think that's one reason why people don't see it as a big deal. It's enough for Taiwan to scramble jets, but it's not really enough to like alarm, I think, a lot of people, which, yeah. Anyways, that's it for me. Stay positive, guys. Keep your stick on the ice. I am also very happy to say that this video is sponsored by the Alan and Prazi podcast, which is available over on Patreon. You can click the link below. It's hilarious. Me and Alan have a ton of fun doing it. I think a lot of you guys would really enjoy that. And I'm actually really impressed and surprised with just how many people have already joined up. So thank you to them. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Bye.